The first road course of the season sets expectations moving forward and might predict very early in the season a really exciting championship battle. Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, where we do motorsports media your way, talking about NASCAR literally all the time. Of course, Circuit of the Americas is the first road course of the season, and it produced the first multi-race winner of the season, William Byron. From the pole to the checkered flag, he dominated the weekend. This is Byron's 10th win in the Gen 7 car, most of any of the other drivers, and he's won 2 of the past 3 road course races, only to be bested by AJ Allmendinger at the Roval last fall. Obviously, a win is a team effort, and I really do believe that the winning moment for this 24 team wasn't just in their outright speed, but within that pit stop with about 24 laps to go. He and Ross Chastain went to the pits, and William Byron's crew got him out roughly plus 3 seconds or around 4 seconds ahead of Ross Chastain's vehicle. This, of course, is a sizable gap that got William Byron out of the pits. Smooth sailing, but he did have something to sweat about with the Toyotas that were lurking behind him. Also his teammate Alex Bowman, but we'll get to that in a second. But between practice and qualifying, we knew that the Toyotas like Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, even Christopher Bell had speed. And I really do believe Christopher Bell is the only car throughout the entirety of the race that could contend with William Byron consistently, meaning that he had speed through the entirety of the day. He had a bit of a different pit stop strategy than the rest of the drivers that were leading the field. He tended to extend the runs that he had because tire wear was so minimal. I thought that was a really good strategy. I know it wasn't the original plan for that 20 team to stay out and get those stage points, but at that point, it's points for the playoffs. When things become kind of desperate, the points become a bit tighter. It made sense for them to capture them now as opposed to regretting it later. As the race was drawing to a close, Christopher Bell was catching up to William Byron. He was within 1 second of him. I think if there was another lap, I think Christopher Bell would have gotten to the lead and gotten the win. Unfortunately, though, that is not the case. Nobody could beat that 24 team. And though we thought the Toyotas were going to be fast this weekend, and they were, the Chevrolets made up half of the top 10. 4 of them were Toyotas, 1 Ford. Of course, Christopher Bell finishes in the second position, and third was Ty Gibbs. Another race where we're like, he could have won it, wasn't able to seal a deal. We'll look to next week. Fourth position was Alex Bowman. Back-to-back top 5 finishes from Bristol to Circuit of the Americas. And Alex Bowman's actually a pretty decent road course racer. I feel like we're kind of slacking on Alex Bowman right now, but listen to the stats here. For Circuit of the Americas, of the 4 times that Alex Bowman has been to this track, he's finished in the top 10. All 4 of those times, 3 of them within the top 5. And if we look at another track like the Roval, all of his finishes there are inside the top 10. I was pretty concerned with the 48 team when the season began, but now I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable with where they're at. It's just a matter of thinking, can Alex Bowman get a win this season? He's generally a driver that does get 1 win a season at least. I think this year could be the year where he finally brings that streak back. So that is Alex Bowman in the 4th position. 5th, Tyler Reddick. 6th, AJ Allmendinger in the number 13 this weekend. So a little different, but a great result for him. 7th, Ross Chastain. 8th, Chris Buescher. He was the only Ford inside the top 10. Throughout the day, Logano, Blaney, and Briscoe were inside the top 10, kind of. They finished 11th, 12th, and 13th. The one driver, though, I was pretty disappointed in was Austin Cindric, but I don't blame him for having a result that was outside the top 10. He did start in the 11th position, but on that initial start of the race, he got damage to his nose, and it caused a bit of an issue, and they had to go and repair it. So the fact that he recovered to a 19th place finish, I think is actually pretty good, all things considering, but it's another one of those races, on the contrary to what I'm thinking about Ty Gibbs, is, man, Austin Cindric needs a good run. He's not having it. I don't know what's going to happen there, but this was a weekend where I thought that Cindric really could have shined, qualifying the best of the Fords going into this race, but it was another race where I'm like, man, so hopefully maybe when we go to Richmond, there's something better in store for that 2 team, but we will move on. Of course, Kyle Busch finishing in 9th, and in 10th, Martin Truex Jr. Some more things and more adversity that the 19 team had to come back from. A lot of drivers, of course, with road courses, you get spun out, you kind of get beaten, banged into. This is another one of those times for Martin Truex Jr. Same with Bubba Wallace, who has yet to finish a race at Circuit of the Americas. Besides, this weekend, finally not a DNF for that 23 team. Bubba Wallace was able to finish this race, and he made a nice recovery to the top 15. The reason why, though, the number 19 and the number 23 struggled this race is because on that initial start, Corey LaJoie, don't really know what happened here. I think he just took the turn way too wide and cut it in to try to blend back in, and it didn't work well. That, or he thought that he could dive bomb in front of the 19 and the 23, and that clearly didn't work. And of course, it clipped them both. They had damage. For Martin Truex Jr., it shattered the wheel rim, and for Bubba Wallace, he thought he had a tire going down after that, a little bit of damage, so he went to pit road, and then of course, following that, he got spun quite a few times. Pretty frustrating, but again, was able to come back to a 15th place finish. Considering their history at the track, call it a win. It's a win for that team. Of course, there are a few drivers I want to shout out for their results during this race, and some drivers that we were absolutely looking at when this race began, with SVG and Kamui Kobayashi. Talking about, though, Justin Haley for a second, very good results for that number 51 team the past 2 weeks, or at least good runs, I should say. Justin Haley ended up finishing this race in the 17th position, but that doesn't define how this race actually went for him. He was actually inside the top 10 most, if not just half of the day, which I think is very promising, especially considering we're trying to see RWR elevate their performance this season. And I think so far they've done it. Future Taylor here. As I'm editing this, there is a change to the results. I marked it on the graphics, but following post-race inspection, the number 51 of Justin Haley has been disqualified from his 17th place finishing position for not meeting minimum post-race weights. So everyone from 17th on back finished one position better than I'm discussing at the moment, so Cindric is now 18th and so on. Back to the show. And of course, for our road course all-stars coming into this race for one-off events, or maybe they'll do more this season, of course, with SVG. SVG, unfortunately, had some issues. He was speeding on pit road and lost first gear, and that resulted in a 21st place finish. As for Kamui Kobayashi, he was just a punching bag this entire race. Got spun out quite a few times by Josh Berry. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was not a good day for him. He finished 30th. Talking about this race in general, obviously, like I said at the beginning of the show, and as you know, it was the first road course race of the season, so we're kind of gauging how this new road course and short track package really did. With the tires, not a lot of tire wear. I think it being a little overcast might have helped a little bit, but I also know it was pretty hot after the race. I believe Corey LaJoie was sitting by his car following the race. It was grueling. It's a 20-turn course, and if you're somebody like Michael McDowell, who unfortunately did not finish this race because he lost power steering and had steering issues, it's a very, very grueling track that tests you physically and mentally. To be a race car driver, you have to be very mentally focused. With everything going on with this race, there was a lot involved. With that said, though, with the lack of tire wear, it really did allow these teams to extend their pit window just a little bit, or to play with tire strategy, and you saw Christopher Bell do that, for example, and it almost paid off. Another thing with this race, just like Road America in 2022, is we had no natural cautions, so we got to see the race play out from start to finish with the strategy that these teams intended, unless they felt like changing things up again. Like I mentioned, Christopher Bell kind of changed things up a little bit after that first stage, making the decision to go for the stage points versus an overall different strategy. And listen, we've seen races for road courses in the past so many seasons with stages and without stages from last year, and I think we need the stages. I'm not going to lie to you, I think we do. I think that made this race pretty entertaining, but even then on its own, we saw a lot of great racing in the pack, some really intense battles for the lead between like Reddick, Gibbs, and also William Byron. I thought that was pretty fun. I also thought it was interesting that we had like 4-car breakaways, maybe even just 3-car breakaways at the front of the field, and then the person who was maybe in 4th or 5th was like 12 seconds back from the lead. Otherwise, the rest of the pack that was away from everyone else was maybe like within 3-4 seconds of each other. So we had some intensity that way as well that I thought was pretty interesting. And love it or hate it, the dominant car to start the weekend ended up winning the race. I know it's kind of boring to everybody. I understand that. But sometimes that's just how the storyline goes. We can't have exciting racing all the time like Daytona, Atlanta. Those were awesome this season, like 10 out of 10 best races ever. Bristol, for instance, we were all really concerned about the short track package and how it would perform, but because the tire compound that Goodyear brought, that race was a banger. We're not going to have those all the time, and I think all I wanted with the road course race is just to see that we had some solid racing involved. All of this to say, I do really like Circuit of the Americas. However, I do think I like it better for open-wheeled racing like Formula One, and if we're we're considering how road course racing was last year to this race, I actually thought it was a little bit better. And if we're going to compare it to road course races only, not all the races this season, I think this event deserves like a 71%, which is definitely above the yellow line. It wasn't the most entertaining race, but it was definitely solid and it had more positives than negatives, which is leaning me towards a 71% rating. Not this Thursday, but Wednesday, we are going live on the TobyChristieCom YouTube and Facebook pages. We're going to have Brianna O'Leary on the show talking about her career and much more, so make sure you tune in then. Of course, for more from us in the meantime, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com, get your merchandise there as well, and TobyChristie.com for more motorsports news and updates. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, maybe share this video as well, and thank you all so much for supporting us here at Above the Yellow Line and TobyChristie.com, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.